how different do you think are the very basic principles of outreach between what we might do here or what you might do in the US and what you might do for outreach to Europe and Asia?
I think in between Europe and the US, I don't think it's hugely different. Obviously, English is the language of science and business, but science in particular and health. So we have that advantage if I think about Europe, in that journalists and reporters around Europe will nearly always speak English as a first language. So that is helpful. And there is an international media which crosses Europe as it does North America, which is very helpful. Some are based over here and some are based on your side of the pond. So they're always the first point of contact. Now, journalists have been reducing in numbers for years, as you know. So the reporters that we deal with are now much more stretched for time. They have much less opportunity to get out of the office and to build relationships with people or to hear your pitch. So we have to work a lot harder than we used to. I would say that's the key difference. People are very short on time and it's very hard to get the message across. So the relationships that we hold are really important to us and our ability to get people to listen, really. And I would advise any people in the audience to start building media relationships as early as possible and look for opportunities to do that. Conferences are often a very good place to meet reporters. And the other point I would say is it's really important to have your message tied down because you've only got a few seconds to get somebody's interest. So when you're speaking to a journalist, you need to appreciate how many stories are being sold to them every day. And you know, you've got to be relevant and on the button with your message. As for Europe, in terms of the national press, and that includes the trade press, the people that only speak French or German or Italian, then that becomes more relevant when you want to do business in that country, when you want to sell product or services in that country. And that's usually a phase 2. You know, then you need to start thinking about translating your messages into the local language because people won't report it otherwise. And then you need to be able to call up people there and speak to them in their language to sell in your story. So that's always a phase 2. But Europe in principle is pretty much the same as the US otherwise. I think where it differs is in Asia, where largely there is very little by way of trade press that we would recognize here, especially in China and Japan. So again, the international press is the way to take the lead. But if you want to really get into local media, then you need to have a partner on the ground who can give you support. And short of that, my advice is to generate as much content as you can that is relevant to those countries and publish it on your website, and maybe have specific language pages on your website if that's important, if particular countries are important for you. So I hope that sort of gives you a quick overview of the media landscape that we look at.
I have a question. So when you talk about the international media, what does that mean as opposed to, say, national or professional?
Yeah, I'm really talking about trade press in particular, because for a lot of SMEs, a lot of young companies, the trade press is where they're going to start or get most of their reporting of their business. They might be lucky enough to, if they have a big financing, to get some coverage in a big national or consumer publication. But largely we're talking about the serious trade press that are read by senior executives in a particular industry that they're working in. And a lot of the better ones are international. They're either published out of the US or Europe, but they have a global audience, and that's what I was referring to.